Hello, Star Trek fans, and welcome to ReBingeIT, also known as the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we're rebinging Star Trek Voyager from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 1, Episode 4, Time and Again. This episode aired January 30th, 1995. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's episode, Parallax?
No, it was perfect.
Yeah, it was perfect. Let's go with that. Great Star Trek episode. Great episode overall.
I do want to talk about the transfer quality.
Uh-oh. Okay.
We've both been watching this streaming, and the thing I seem to notice is this seems to be a higher quality transfer than Deep Space Nine. Because there's some scenes, which usually when it's fairly bright, but even some of the dark scenes, the picture quality looks literally amazing for what is an NTSC transfer into high def. It looks really good. And there are episodes of Deep Space Nine where we've, on different TVs, in different places, we've looked at and gone, wow, what is this? Is this like an early MPEG encoder?
Yeah, super grainy.
Yeah, it looks bad.
Yeah, I did notice, because there's a lot of dark scenes in this episode when we're, in the decimated part of the planet.
Right.
And yeah, I did notice it was definitely a better picture than what we were experiencing on Deep Space Nine. I mean, it's a couple years later, but I don't know that makes a difference.
Right.
I mean, did they just downgrade the quality of the show because it was less popular? I don't know.
Is this just another way Deep Space Nine is getting put down on by the network?
The short shrift.
Yeah. They downloaded a freeware MPEG converter and went, yeah, we'll use that. We don't care.
What did they call it in the documentary? The forgotten middle child?
Yes.
Or something like that.
Right,
yeah.
right.
No, it's clearly different quality.
Yeah.
But could that just be the app at this point?
No, I think they just did a low bitrate transfer.
Interesting.
Or they did the Voyager transfer using the studio quality tapes. And this one, they just got one of the guys who had some VHSs stuck in a basement.
Well, either way, it's good news for us because it means that this show looks better as we go into it.
It really does, yeah.
Yeah, it really does. Well, you have the notes this week,
I do.
So over to you.
Okay. We open on the bridge, and Tom is trying to get Harry to come on a double date. But he doesn't want to, as he has a girl back home and believes he'll see her again. Tom tells Harry, let her go. Let her have a life, a husband, children, a good life.
It's been a week. Calm down, Tom.
I don't trust Tom's motives here. I don't think he's looking out for the best interests of Harry's girlfriend.
It's like, okay, we get it. You're Riker.
Oh.
And not a great version of Riker.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. And why are you having this conversation on the bridge? I get why, because they need to be in the scene when the next thing happens. Right. But also, don't have this conversation on the bridge. Inappropriate in the workplace.
Harry's at work.
Harry's at work, exactly.
This is interrupted by shaking on the bridge as they're passing through the leading edge of a shockwave, and we cut to Kes waking up looking very distressed. I think it might be because that wig is pretty distressing.
There is some funny hair stuff going on. I'm pretty sure Janeway's bun is even bigger than it was last week.
Oh, yes. There's that scene where she's talking to Tom. I said to you, is her bun bigger or something?
Yeah, it's wider.
Looks like a hat.
It does look like a hat. Oh, no.
Well, they find the source of the shockwave and a debris cloud of differentially charged polaric ions. There'll be a lot of polaric ions in this episode, warning people.
And Janeway's like, differentially charged.
Yeah.
And the rest of us are going, ugh, what does that mean?
She looks very serious.
Oh, yeah.
Janeway concludes this must have come from a massive detonation. Neelix is unfamiliar with this system, so is pretty useless. And Tuvok gives him this great look in the background, like, ugh. Why did we bring him on again?
Yeah, it's like, just say no. I don't know. He's so weird in this scene. He's so Neelix in this scene.
I believe that was Tuvok performing a Janeway maneuver.
I don't think we have a Janeway maneuver in this episode.
Oh, we do. We do. I made note of it.
Do we? Okay.
Yes. Kes comes to the bridge, and we find a planet that's been completely toasted. It had a civilization, but they're all dead. And Kes seems to already know this before Tom even scanned.
Yeah, she's having some kind of psychic interaction with this planet.
Right.
By the way, she comes in an extremely cool purple outfit.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah, that is a pretty awesome outfit.
Yeah.
I knew you would like it because it's purple.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Janeway, ever the action captain, beams straight down to the surface. and we see a world in ruins.
Wouldn't the radiation from this be a bit dangerous?
They did have a disclaimer where I think it's Tuvok says it's within nominal levels.
I know, but how would it be? It just happened 1 second ago. I mean, I can only imagine we didn't want to spring for spacesuits in this scene.
Right. And into the opening credits. Down on the planet, B'Elanna reports the entire surface was just seared. Janeway describes it as a chain reaction in subspace, ignited by the detonation of one or more polaric ion devices.
Lots of technobabble in this scene.
Apparently, these can be extremely dangerous weapons, and even the Romulans signed onto a test ban treaty in 2268. I feel this is another example of one of those Star Trek super weapons you kind of have to wave your hands at, because if you can wipe out a planet instantaneously with just one or two of these devices, why wouldn't people be using them?
Yeah, the evil people.
Right, because here's the problem. If you can make them, your enemies can make them. So the Dominion, who has zero morals, just won the war and toasted 90% of the Federation.
Yeah, they shouldn't have made it an entire planet-wide destruction.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
Initially, B'Elanna thinks it was caused by a war, but Janeway finds they were actually powering their civilization with polaric energy. And she says, a time bomb under every street, running into every house. Very dramatic.
Yeah.
The drama continues as back on Voyager, Kes is extremely emotionally distressed. And again, I assume it's from having to wear that wig.
And spend time with Neelix.
Yeah, that would do it too.
Because he is not helping.
No.
He's just like, I'm sure you imagined it. I'm sure this was all in your head. Oh, you had a dream. This didn't really happen. It's like, dude.
It's all in your mind.
She's in tears. Whatever happened, happened.
Not helping. I think he's trying to be supportive rather than dismissive, but it just comes across as, you're just crazy.
Yeah, he's no help.
Kes tells Neelix she saw them burning, ashes where they stood.
Right.
And explains how her ancestors were supposed to have extraordinary mental abilities, and she believes the legends are true. Quite a dramatic scene.
Now, we do learn in the first episode that the Ocampa are telepathic.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So this is something more. We're not really sure yet what it is.
Right.
But yeah,
right.
It's almost clairvoyance, I guess.
Yeah, like some form of it.
Okay.
Back on the planet, Tom's found what looks like a clock, frozen at the moment of the explosion.
Well, it looks like a bomb. It's the biggest clock. It's the biggest digital clock you've ever seen.
We need to talk about why a digital LED clock stopped at that moment.
Because it needed to for this story.
If it's still displaying the digits, then it's probably still working.
Oh, that is a great point.
That was extraordinarily hand-wavy.
There are some serious hand waves in this episode.
In my opinion, I think they should have sprung for some kind of analog clock. Like, remember Cisco built that really weird, bizarre clock? They should have used that. That would have been a great tie-in.
Oh, that would have been good.
It's also interesting that this race can represent all their numbers in 7-segment LEDs, just like on Earth. Tom then appears to get some kind of vision of the square that they're standing in, but it's in bright sunlight with children playing and people going about their business. But it disappears when Janeway touches him.
I love that. I love that scene.
B'Elanna scans Tom, and he is showing signs of temporal flux.
Ugh.
Did you say, woohoo, time travel?
Always.
Tuvok determines subspace has been fractured. And I like how Janeway here describes it as, there may be subspace fractures floating like icebergs across the surface of the planet.
Right.
That, to me, just gives a great visual.
I mean, realistically, in that moment, I mean, she takes control, which is great from here. But realistically, as soon as she knew that, she should have called for Voyager to beam them back up instead of explaining it. But we needed her to explain it for us who are watching.
It did make me laugh when Janeway said, I want everyone to stand exactly where they are. And if you look in the background, Tuvok seems to still be walking. Did you mean me? Did you include me in that?
It's like in the first episode when she says brace for impact and the stupid first officer goes running across the bridge. Like, did you not understand what I just said?
I believe that is actually a very deliberate thing. It's a version of population control for first officers.
I see.
The ones who actually survive are the good ones. Well, Janeway tries to beam back up, but it's too late, as she and Tom are suddenly both in the square with all the happy people and the children.
The screaming children. Or at least the one screaming child.
Well, there's a bit of a commotion as a young boy saw them materialize, but a peace officer just puts it down to the child's imagination and is very friendly. Tom is standing right by the same store window where he found the timepiece, and the shopkeeper shows it to him, explaining its layout of rotations, intervals, and fractions. And Tom tells Janeway, this means the world will be destroyed sometime tomorrow. Dramatic ad break with the music, just like you pointed out.
Yeah.
I do have to question how Tom knew what this world's number-based system was and what those digits were and the fractions, etc.
Well, the guy explained it to him.
Yes, but how long is when he said...
Rotations.
Yeah.
I guess he was assuming it like it was in Earth.
Good point. But you could be wildly off,
Yeah.
like the small piece of it, the intervals. It could be, oh yes, each one of those intervals, that's the equivalent of 4 Earth years.
Yeah, I think he was being conservative in the way he looked at it, saying, well, if that's the case and it's like Earth, then this is what it is.
We'll put that one down as just writing hand
A
wave.
hand wave.
Off to a PowerPoint presentation with Harry and B'Elanna, and they're explaining to Tuvok and Chakotay they've determined a subspace fracture pushed Tom and Janeway into the past.
Mm-hmm.
In medical, the doctor is scanning Kes and annoyed that he doesn't have her medical record on file. He's also annoyed that her medical records weren't transmitted before she joined the crew. And is even more irritated to hear the whole crew from a destroyed ship are also on board, which he didn't know.
And he doesn't like to hear that Janeway is missing.
Oh, yes.
He has a lot of complaints.
I think the problem here is if this was an emergency program, you probably wouldn't design it to handle outside what is normal protocol.
Yeah.
That you would have everybody's file.
Yeah.
In terms of things like having people who aren't part of the regular crew, of him not knowing about events that were happening, like the captain going down, or none of this would be built into the program or would be expected to be used by the program.
Right.
It speaks to an interesting point of why aren't they considering these things?
Yeah.
Is this just like another one of the, look, we've got 100 problems right now. This is 101.
When this is your protocol, you've got a holographic doctor. Why are you not utilizing him? I don't think it makes sense that they would just drop all of their protocols because there wasn't a chief medical officer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. But we're playing it for laughs with the doctor.
That's true. They are using him as comic relief.
Yeah.
Didn't he have these complaints last week?
He did, and Janeway said, she was going to look into getting him linked into the main computer of the bridge.
Plus, he's already treated Kes once before, and he didn't say anything then.
He was in triage mode, and now she's asking a general medical question. And also, for this particular problem, he would need to be able to compare it to something else.
Good catch, Kim. I like that one. That's a good one.
Thank you.
When he tries talking to the captain, he learns that she's missing, and he delivers, I think, the line of the episode. I find myself on the voyage of the damned.
That was pretty good.
In the end, he reverts to the traditional doctor approach, just telling Kes that this is probably completely fine, and she should just get some rest and plenty of liquids.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, Tom and Janeway are blending in, and they've traded in their uniforms for the local style of clothing. And there's a nice little touch of, as they're walking out, you can see in one of the store windows, one of their uniforms.
Right. I think this is funny that it's an entire planet of stripy clothes. That's the first thing. Like everybody, in what country even? Where does everybody wear exactly the same? And it is such a Star Trek thing that everybody on the planet dresses exactly the same and they stand out in their weird uniforms.
It's a little bit like Stargate SG-1, where it seemed to be 90% of the places they went to, everyone was dressed like medieval peasants.
Yeah, the peasant thing we've talked about before, where people sometimes in the episodes, it's like they're wearing rags, and you think, really? Also, that one security guard that they talked to, he has got some very peculiar thing on his head. He is not wearing stripes, so he's obviously got a different kind of uniform on. It's like we got the stripes and the solids, and the security guards are the solids. But then he's got some peculiar, I don't even know what it is on his head.
Weird ear pads.
Yeah, maybe there was some headphones in there or something because it covered his ears. It was strange. He looked like he was cold, but it was not cold. I also like in this scene how Janeway is like immediately on board with saying, oh, we're from the other province, because somebody mentions it to her.
Yes.
She is all in immediately. She's like, oh, yeah, we're from the other province, from the Kalto province. And oh, yeah, we came in this morning on the transport. It's just like, okay, improv.
Yeah, they did a great job at sort of the blending in, rolling with what's happening, which I think it's a good sign for Janeway and Tom that they can do that they don't go into like a panic mode or anything.
True, and she also undoes her intense bun at this point, and she's just got kind of partially hanging down. I mean, she looks incredible.
Also here we get a quick summary of the Prime Directive from Janeway, because Tom wants to help these people, but she orders him, he cannot warm them. So I guess for people who are unfamiliar with it, this is a little bit of an explanation. And it's also the classic Star Trek dilemma. They could do something, but they choose not to. My opinion on this is, to quote Data, to hell with orders.
Well,
I mean, you have the ability to stop this event, and you choose not to. How are you not complicit in it then? If you can stop the events without them knowing, I think you're covered in terms of the Prime Directive.
well, and I think we already violated the Prime Directive by leaving our uniforms behind, because are those not advanced materials?
Yes.
We covered that in Deep Space Nine, where they're particularly cooling and whatever other abilities they have, and we just left them in that shop.
That's a good point.
But I guess they think they're all going to blow up tomorrow.
Wow, that's brutal. Yeah, it doesn't matter. They'll all be dead tomorrow.
But I feel like that was a violation.
That is true.
Yeah.
But I guess from Janeway's perspective, she could look at it as it's not going to affect the timeline because they've got 24 hours.
Yeah. I don't know. I agree. I think it's silly to be like,
Right.
oh no, they're supposed to blow up, so we should leave them. It's like, that doesn't make any sense.
I think if you could do it without them knowing.
Yeah, you're not interfering in their development.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's go into headcanon.
Mm-hmm.
You see this planet is going to make a huge mistake, and you do something like reduce the effects of an accident. So maybe it wakes them up and they go, this is a really bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that subtly behind the scenes. I would say that would be the more moral approach to take.
I agree.
Well, we're not done here, because the young boy from earlier confronts the two of them. And Tom tells him they are demons who eat children, and he hasn't had supper.
I really laughed.
This terrifies the poor kid, and it chases him away.
I really laughed when he said that. I thought that was funny because the kid keeps shouting, they're demons. It's like, okay, kid. And finally Tom's like, yep, I'm pretty hungry. And he lunges at the kid and the kid runs away. I laughed. That was good.
Well, I think this is where we get the Janeway maneuver, because she gives Tom this look.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sure. I thought it was a good plan.
It worked.
Yeah.
So Janeway hatches a plan that they can use polaric energy to scan for subspace fractures, and they head off to find a power station. Unfortunately, in the next scene, there's a demonstration going on at the plant, with protesters and security scuffling, and one of the guards just clocks Janeway in the head with his nightstick, and she goes down.
Yeah, I did not see that coming.
Wow, yeah, it was like a full smack in the face.
Yeah, violent.
Tom takes out the guard as the protesters withdraw, with one of them helping Janeway. And my note here says, damn hippies, always protesting something.
Yes. And don't forget that annoying kid. Now he's followed them all the way to the power plant.
Yes.
Like, does he not have parents? What is he doing? Because this is a little kid.
Well, it's a happy and safe society.
Except it's not. They're all armed in these protests. Everybody's got a weapon.
True.
And the kid's just running around in the bushes. It's like, oh.
Okay, maybe not so idyllic. On Voyager, Harry and B'Elanna have manufactured a polaric energy device.
I thought Harry was in ops. What's he doing? Where are the scientists? It's B'Elanna on her own. Where's that guy from last week?
They're making do with what they have. Well, this device will open a subspace fracture and be able to bring Tom and Janeway back. Chakotay shows some good leadership here, telling them, good job. Also, Kes tells Chakotay she needs to go along too, saying she's seen it all already.
I do like that Chakotay's like, what? All right.
Fine.
Yeah.
Back in time, we meet the leader of the hippies, Pinar McCool, and his colleague, Nye Turla. And Janeway's got a hell of a cut on the side of her head.
Yeah, she does.
So I looked up this guy, Nicholas Sarovi, who plays Pinar.
The lead guy?
Because I think he's got this awesome voice. He's got really good presence in this episode. Well, unfortunately, they think Tom and Janeway are government spies sent to infiltrate them.
I'm sure.
Because they both show polaric energy levels so high that they must have been in the power plant. And they pull guns on them. Another dramatic ad break. Back to the future, and on the away team, Kes tells Chakotay it's like she can sense the people, almost as if she could touch them. And Harry finds a signal from a comms badge and they set off to find it. Back at Hippie HQ, Pinar is questioning Janeway, who's not giving anything up. Pinar's thug, Nye Turla, brings in the young boy from earlier who is sneaking around outside. The kid actually manages to make things worse by telling Pinar they're not who they say they are. They're lying.
Well, why would you believe this random kid you found? Sure, kid.
Yeah, I liked how Tom says, thanks, kid.
Yeah.
In the future again, and they find the comm badges, which are now just little melted pieces of metal.
Oh.
The interaction with Tuvok here is great. As B'Elanna says, they were caught in the explosion. But Tuvok says, it only means their comm badges were. Further speculation serves no purpose.
Oh, gosh. Wouldn't it be great if you could actually be like that?
Great Vulcan logic is on display here.
Yeah.
Back to Pinar, because we are cutting all over the place. There's lots of very short, quick scenes to sort of progress the story. Back to Pinar, who's still basically interrogating Janeway.
And she's getting annoyed. She's like, this is a waste of time.
Tom is bonding with the young boy and telling him that he really doesn't eat children. And we learn the kid is a budding journalist and he writes for his school paper. And I think the big thing here is we're seeing that this is having an effect on Tom. Knowing these people and this kid are going to be impacted or killed by this explosion.
Yeah, he suddenly feels quite bad.
Yeah, I think it's showing us fairly quickly that Tom isn't this hard-nosed, tough-as-nails mercenary. That there's a lot of front to Tom.
It's so funny, this thing about the kids, like, I'm a journalist too. And in the mid-90s, the way we looked at journalism versus now is so different. Like, this would never happen on a current show.
Right.
Now you'd be a content creator.
Yes. Pinar explains he's a patriot and he sincerely believes that polaric energy could destroy their entire world. And because he thinks the government sent Tom and Janeway, he'll need to move up the schedule. They can't wait a week. They need to begin tomorrow at 400 hours. On the away team, Kes senses Janeway telling Tuvok she can feel her presence. She says Captain, which Janeway in the past hears.
She hears it. Yeah, that was cool.
Janeway then tells the truth to Tynar. She's from a starship and the future. She tries convincing him that what he's doing is going to trigger an explosion, but he's not buying any of it. Harry and B'Elanna have set up their device and they're opening a rift. Chakotay hails Janeway, which they hear on their comm badges in the past, but Night Urla thinks they are listening devices and takes them. B'Elanna's device starts creating some kind of subspace rift in the past and we see like a glowing distortion. But it's too late, as Pinar has already left.
Well, it's too early to rescue them. We're only like halfway through the episode.
He's taken Tom, Janeway, and the young boy, and they've left the badges on the table.
Yeah.
Basically where they find them in the future.
Where they melt. I can't believe you kept track of all these people's names. I pretty much, in my notes, are like the old guy and the chest hair guy, is what I have.
The chest hair guy, yeah. Oh. On the way to the energy plant, Janeway explains to Tom they may have violated the Prime Directive in the worst possible manner. Their being there caused the sabotage attempt to be moved up a week, so they could be responsible for the explosion. Pinar now tries to get Janeway to help in their plan, saying that they'll kill the boy if she doesn't help. Instead, she just tells the guard she's a hostage.
Oh, I loved it. It was like Mariner in that episode of Lower Decks.
Oh, yes.
This guy sucks. That's what it reminded me of.
It was a good plan, but it doesn't work out well as Pinar just shoots the guy.
I don't know. I think it was not a great plan. And also the chest hair guy is standing there with the gun out in the open, pointed at the kid as they walk up to the power plant, like up to the gate. And that guy, I think he has an even bigger gun, but it's crazy to me that he's standing there with a gun and then they're trying to pretend like, oh, these are government officials, just let us in. This is a ridiculous scene.
It wasn't well thought out.
No.
I think there's another side to it as well, because the look on the guard's face is priceless.
Yeah.
He's like,
he panics. He panics and he starts going backwards. And then I also think he falls over before the gunshot.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, he goes down.
I don't think they're putting their best people on gate duty.
No.
I have the worry this was discount security. We can get the good guys or the cheap ones. Well, things escalate and a gunfight breaks out. They shoot all the guards and the young boy tries to escape. And Tynar just shoots him. But Tom jumps in the way, like a hero, and takes the bullet. And Tom goes down.
I can't believe they would just shoot the kid. And also, Tom gets shot in the gut. I don't really think you're going to survive.
No, not for very long.
No.
Pinar and his minions have now shot their way through. And he turns back and tells Janeway that their lives are on her conscience.
Yeah. Let's dig in a little bit.
Oh, the classic response from the revolutionary. Oh, you made me kill those people.
Yeah.
I think this shows the fanaticism that really didn't come out with Pinar. That these are true believers. Like you said, he didn't need to shoot at the kid. I think what you're seeing here is these people are, we're doing the right thing. It doesn't matter how many people we hurt.
Well, I think that would be part of my overanalysis of this episode, that I'm not really buying these guys as terrorists.
Yeah.
And we don't really know what it is that they're trying to do in the power station. They never even tell us. All the way to the end, we don't really know what it is that they're trying to do. It's just some kind of a protest. If it's really some kind of a protest about saving lives, what are you doing shooting people? Doesn't make any sense. I think their motivations are confusing, and they're very confusing. And also, there's only a couple of them. There's like 2 of them. Doesn't make any sense either. The whole thing is weird.
The injured Tom tells Janeway to go, as she's got to stop them. And we go back to even quicker cuts. This is like really short little scenes now. Pinar and his crew in the power station are setting up some kind of device, and the Voyager team in the future have beamed down to the flashpoint of the explosion and are setting up their equipment in what I can only describe as an awesome Janeway scene. She invokes full stealth mode, and she creeps up on Pinar. This is awesome. She's like ducking behind the walls and hiding behind the machinery.
It is so long. I mean, it goes on forever. And the guy, and how many times does the guy look back and doesn't see her, and then she ducks again, and then she's like pushed herself up against the wall, and then she's moving around the things that you're supposed to believe are equipment, but they're just pieces of plastic.
Right.
It's so long. And you and I were talking about this earlier, but it was just very reminiscent of a TOS episode.
Yes, it felt like something that Kirk would do.
Yeah, I agree. It felt very Kirk.
Like it was exaggerated.
Yeah. And it just, but yeah, went on forever.
But it was great.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah. She sells it.
Yes, that's true. Well, she manages to get the jump on Pinar, holding him at gunpoint. In the future, B'Elanna can't detect a subspace beacon, and Tuvok thinks that the captain would not have been here. But Kes says, she was here. This is where she died.
Ugh, creepy.
Yeah. Janeway continues trying to convince Pinar that if he goes through with this, everyone on the planet will be killed, and they only have 3 minutes to live. She thinks Pinar is going to explode some kind of device, but he tells her they're not stupid enough to blow anything up. So this comes down to your point. We never really know what they're trying to do.
Well, then what are you stupid enough to do?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you actually doing here? We have no idea.
I like it when she tells him something goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he just responds with, nothing will go wrong.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thanks, dude.
Yes. You know what the next words usually following that are?
911?
Oh, crap. I thought it also showed maybe some of the hubris with this guy.
So in this scene, I mean, there's the 2 normal guys and there's one other thug, right? And that's it. And Janeway's like, oh, what time is it? And the guy pulls the clock out of his pocket, and it is it's like you're carrying a wall clock around or an alarm clock that's normally on your nightstand.
Oh, yes.
He's got this in his pocket. Do they not have watches on this planet? It really made me laugh that he pulled this giant clock out of his pocket.
Oh, you've got one of the compact ones.
Oh, my God.
As there's only a few minutes left, Janeway tells him, then they'll just wait.
That's so silly, though, because just because you avoid it by 1 minute doesn't mean it's not going to happen the next minute.
Back in the future, B'Elanna starts up the machine, and there's a great Tuvok line where he says, there is no logical reason to believe Kes is correct. However, since I have no alternative course of action, I suggest we proceed.
Love it.
Another great Vulcan line.
Mm-hmm.
Janeway is still holding Pinar at gunpoint. He's still completely skeptical about the destruction. He's even kind of mocking it. But at that moment, a subspace rift opens in the corridor behind, and we see the same kind of glowing, distorting effect as earlier. A shocked-looking Pinar says, it's going to intersect with the polaric energy conduit. And Janeway realizes it's her crew's rescue attempt sets the explosion off. Pilar now relents, giving her phaser, and Janeway starts trying to seal the hole.
I love that look on Janeway's face when she realizes, oh, crap.
Yes.
I made this happen.
Right.
It was good.
And I kind of like the way Pinar was so dismissive and even sort of mocking.
We talked about this, I think, last week, but Kate Mulgrew in this part, she is so 100% in this part.
Yes.
You know, she's not like feeling her way to Janeway or feeling her way to being in the drama of Star Trek like maybe Patrick Stewart was in season 1, or at least in the first few episodes of Next Gen. She has committed herself to this part and she is in it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what's I think's kind of funny about this is you don't see, in my opinion, this style of captain until Discovery and Strange New Worlds.
True. It's completely true.
As Janeway continues to shoot at the fracture, Harry and B'Elanna increase the machine's output to maximum, and we see some kind of explosion on the crew side. They're all thrown back, and everything goes white. And in the past, we see each of the characters disappear. Janeway, Pinar, his crew, plus Tom and the boy. And we cut back to Voyager, right at the point Tom is trying to convince Harry to go on the date with the Delaney sisters. And here is where things are different. Janeway just walks onto the bridge, and Chakotay tells her that there's an M-class planet in the system nearby. Neelix still doesn't know anything about it, and gets the look from Tuvok. But Kes comes to the bridge and doesn't seem so upset. She tells Janeway there was an explosion, everyone on the planet was killed. But Tuvok tells her there's no indication of this, and the planet appears to be a pre-warp civilization. Janeway tells Kes of the Prime Directive, and they won't interfere, and Kes asks to see it. And on the view screen, we see a vibrant green and blue world. Janeway orders logging the planet, and to maintain their present heading, and Warp 6. And we close on Voyager flying through space. The end. Okay, first thing I have to say here is, you know what I would have done at the end of this episode? The very last scene, as Voyager's flying away, I'd cut back to that square with the stores and the happy people and the clothing store window, and the Starfleet uniform would be in it.
Oh, genius.
It's no crazier than Mars O'Brien from the past dying in the future and it having no impact on the future Miles.
That would have been really interesting. And then I really would have had my complaint about the Prime Directive. Now look what we've done.
Right.
That would have been interesting. Because really what we did is maybe, I don't know, it's certainly one of the biggest hand waves in Star Trek history.
Yeah.
What the heck just happened?
I'm not going to mention it now, but this is actually used again.
Okay.
Specifically in Voyager.
Oh my gosh. As I was watching this episode, there were two things I remembered about it, because I'm not sure I've seen it in 30 years, however long it's been since it aired. I remembered the stripy outfits, I guess specifically because Janeway and Tom, and I've seen the pictures, but I also remembered that annoying kid. And didn't remember anything else. The whole time I'm watching, I'm like, how does this end? How do we get out of this? And then when that happened and they all sort of flashed back to where they were before, I was like, oh, well, no wonder I didn't remember. This is ridiculous.
Right. Interesting you say that, because this is one of those episodes that, even though I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite episodes, it's one that just stuck with me. And I think because of the idea that, particularly that part where they open the subspace rift and it's going to destroy the conduit.
Yeah.
I think that was the thing that really stuck in my mind with this one, of their rescue was going to cause the events that caused them to be there in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. After I saw it, I remembered. I was like, oh, right. Yeah.
And I think I kind of have a memory for the time travel-y ones. They sort of stick with me.
Do you have over-analysis?
Yes, I do have some over-analysis.
Okay.
I will say my over-analysis is a little bit more broad than just this episode.
Okay.
The first one is pre-warp civilizations. I feel there's a problem here, because if anybody gets warp technology, I feel everyone would end up getting it, even races that haven't developed it themselves. Remember, Rom in Deep Space Nine made a comment about how the Ferengi bought their warp technology.
Right.
And I feel you would end up in that situation. You would just need one race that went, hey, we can sell this.
Yeah, they'd start going to planets like this. Yep.
Yes, maybe a planet like that, basically give them warp technology in exchange for mineral resources, or maybe low-cost labor, or setting up factories, something like that. So you could see a race which was maybe less evolved than the Federation giving away warp technology.
Definitely.
For barter, basically.
Yeah, like, how are the Sunburn guys not on this planet trying to take everything they have, take their water? Yeah, because they've got ships. They could get here. Mm-hmm.
Especially if they're effectively an aggressive colonial race.
Yeah, I do think it's a bit hand-wavy in general.
Right. And I think I mentioned it. There's like a weapon that is unbelievably powerful. And it's like, just because you don't use it doesn't mean the bad guys won't.
Right. Yeah.
Next thing. So what use is Neelix again?
Oh, yeah. None. None in this episode.
This is our weekly. We have to pick on Neelix.
Yeah. I don't know why. He just grates on me.
It's like the evil founder woman and the Breen. That grating voice.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what exactly was this episode about? Was it the risk of terrorism against infrastructure? Nuclear energy is bad? Don't mess with subspace fractures?
I think it was to show that Janeway can look good in anything. Tom didn't look bad in a skirt, because the men are like wearing skirts.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a fair question. I thought maybe it was something to do with nuclear energy.
Right.
But we didn't really expand enough on it to say that's what it was about. And in the end, they were left with that polaric energy. So it's not like we helped with anything. So we didn't learn anything. I think it was just a random, weird, one-off episode.
Yeah.
It gave us the Prime Directive speech.
Maybe the point of this episode was really to introduce an audience that maybe didn't know about the Prime Directive to the concept of it. Their starting point was, how do we explain the Prime Directive? And we'll write an episode around it.
And we do that in every series of the show. Yeah. We have to explain the Prime Directive.
Right. You could take it, I think, two ways of fanatical believers in something are a problem. No matter what it is they're believing in, they always find a way of justifying themselves. Even if what they could do could be extremely harmful.
I just didn't buy these guys as radicals.
Yeah.
They just seemed like boneheads.
Maybe that was part of it too.
How is shooting that kid going to further your agenda? I don't know.
I don't think it would buy you a lot of sympathy.
No.
But you could also see it as an anti-nuclear message.
Except for in the end, they still have it.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed.
In theory, the protest would still happen a week later on that world. We just don't know what happened. So they got another week before something goes wrong and kills everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
All we did was delay the inevitable.
Right. It does follow a Federation path. Out of sight, out of mind.
Well, that's true. Well, if you're done with overanalysis...
Yes, that is the end of my overanalysis. Over to you, Kim.
We pretty much talked about my things already, except for one item. Because I had the Prime Directive being violated by the uniforms. And then I said, is this a statement on nuclear energy? And we already talked about that. So the one thing I would bring up is in the scene, that last scene where they stop the explosion, when Janeway shoots the beam and they all sort of go flying backwards in slow motion. Do you know where we've seen that before?
Where?
Star Trek Prodigy. I think it was the episode Time Amok.
Yeah.
Where they all get splintered into their different times.
Oh.
We use that slow motion flying back effect, and I'm pretty confident this is where they took it from, because it is such a Voyager sequel.
Oh, too funny. That would make perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome. That's a really good catch.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. And then, I also had in here that I don't buy these guys as rebels or whatever the hell they are. Terrorists. I don't buy it. And their stupid stripy outfits. But anyway. I don't have a lot of women in the future either. I mean, there's the thing with Tom, which we have to watch twice, with him talking to Harry on the bridge. And I don't think this is the appropriate location for that conversation.
Yeah.
I get that they needed to do it because they needed to be on the bridge for when the event happened. But it's like they're kind of trying to make him the rogue, right? We had Riker, and then we had Bashir, and now we have Tom. It doesn't even really yet feel like that's working.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure why. Maybe the actor's not totally committed to it, or they're trying hard not to do what they did with Bashir, which was a nightmare, right?
Right.
But they're instead just trying to make him like a mini Riker. I mean, the good news here is I don't think what he's saying is appropriate in the workplace, but the good news is we're not just actively, outwardly harassing women yet. So I didn't really like it, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. So I think that's all I have to say about women in the future. Just women doing their jobs. No complaints.
Any comments on leadership?
The only thing really that I noticed in the Janeway Leadership Corner is when she did that thing which I mentioned earlier, which was, okay, we got to get out of here. And she stops to explain why we have to get out of here instead of just calling Voyager and saying, get us out of here.
Yeah.
But just like she has been doing, she's taking control. She's taking the accountability for things when they go wrong. So I don't really have anything else to say. But Chakotay was pretty quiet in this episode, right? Yeah. He only has a couple of lines.
He did provide positive feedback.
Yes, he did. And I don't think there's anything else really about leadership in this episode.
It was impressive that he didn't go, Captain's gone, I got the big chair.
I did think for a minute he might be going, woohoo, I'm in charge. Let's get out of here.
I get the big office.
But that did not happen, fortunately. So then let's go to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating for this episode?
Absolute thumbs up. This was an enjoyable, fun episode. It was very Trek. It was a good science fiction story. Mm-hmm. I like the time travel aspect. And like I said, it's one of those weird episodes that I wouldn't put it in my favorites of all time.
Right.
But I remember the story. I enjoyed it. So thumbs up.
I'd give it a thumbs up too. Maybe not quite as enthusiastically. I feel like it's a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
I do think the hand wave at the end is quite extreme.
Right.
And anytime we go down to a planet and we dress in doofy outfits, I'm always suspicious of the episode. Like, is this really necessary that we are in these outfits? It still strikes me as very funny that everybody on the planet wears the same clothes.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think it's pretty good. I like the story. I think from here, we ought to keep track of how bad the hand waves are. I mean, this hand wave is a 9. A 9 out of 10 on the hand waves. I think it's huge that we just go, oh, because why would it go back to that moment? I mean, it's weird.
They'll use it again.
Oh my God. By the way, I think something I hadn't really thought about as we go along here is that Kes having some extra abilities would be quite useful. You know, her being sort of on the ship, not really part of the crew, but at least being, on the ship. And all the things that happened, though, now didn't happen. Even her conversation with the doctor didn't happen. Right. So the only thing really that happened was at the end, she had a funny feeling about something, and then it went away. She didn't have the crying, the really intense experience. She didn't have that sort of psychic connection with Janeway. None of that happened. It all got erased.
That's a good point.
So at this point, all that's happened is she had kind of a funny feeling.
So that whole development is put backwards.
Right. We've undone it. We did it, and then we undid it.
Yeah.
So let's see how we go from here. There's just so much about this show I do not remember. It's like I remember loving Janeway. That's about all I remember. And then I remember when 7 of 9 appears later. But that's like, everything else is like, it's like watching a new show.
Well, you didn't tend to go back and rewatch episodes. And that's something I did a lot of.
How ironic that here we are now doing a ReBinge podcast.
By the way, there's no time limit in rebinging. You don't have to watch them right at one after the other. You can have a gap in between.
I love it when people try to tell me that what ReBinge means. It's a word I made up. ReBinge means whatever I want it to mean.
As the creator of the word, you are granted definition rights.
That's right. Until it makes it into sort of the popular vernacular and it gets into a dictionary. It means whatever I say it means. Yeah.
ReBinge, whatever Kim says it is.
That's exactly what it means. All right, well, we are flying along. That is the end of episode 3? No, 4. That's the end of episode 4.
Right.
Come back next week for episode 5. In the meantime, if you'd like to send us your own over-analysis of this or any episode, or if you have anything to say about Janeway Leadership Corner, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com. We are also on that thing that used to be called Twitter. We're on Threads, we're on Instagram, and we're on YouTube at ReBingeIT. And you can reach out to us as well on the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts.
Thanks for joining us on the ReBinge Star Trek Voyager podcast.
And the ReBinge It podcast. And that's it for me.
And that's it from me.